If you are 60 years old or older and you own your home, I need 30 seconds of your time right now because there is a real deadline hiding inside your property tax bill that could cost you thousands of dollars if nobody tells you about it in time. And most seniors find out only after it's already too late to fix it. Stick with me for the next few minutes because by the end of this video, you will know exactly what this program is, who qualifies, what the real numbers look like, and the one date on the calendar you cannot afford to miss. Before we go any further, if you find this helpful, hit that like button and subscribe right now because we cover stories like this every single week. Stories that put real money back in the pockets of people who work their whole lives for it, and you don't want to miss the next one. Here's the story. Property taxes have been climbing for years, and for a lot of retirees living on a fixed income, that climbing tax bill is one of the scariest parts of getting older in your own home. You paid off your mortgage. You raised your family here. And now the tax bill keeps going up every single year, even though your income from Social Security or your pension barely moves at all. That gap between a fixed income and a rising tax bill is exactly what pushes some seniors to consider selling a home they never wanted to leave. But here's what a lot of people don't realize. There are real, legitimate programs run by your state and your city specifically designed to shrink that tax bill for older homeowners. The catch is that almost none of these programs happen automatically. You have to apply. And if you miss the window, you lose the savings for an entire year. Let's start with the one that catches more people off guard than any other. And that's the Senior Citizen Homeowners Exemption, often just called SCHE. If you own a 1, 2, or 3 family home, a condo, or a co-op, and you are 65 or older, this program can cut the taxable assessed value of your home by as much as 50%. Let that sink in for a second. 50% off the assessed value the city uses to calculate what you owe. For a senior couple living on $48,000 a year in retirement income, that kind of reduction can be the difference between comfortably staying in the home you've owned for decades and being slowly priced out of it by a tax bill that keeps climbing while your income stays flat. Now here's the part that really matters, the part that turns this from a nice program into something urgent. This exemption is not permanent once you get it, and it is not automatic if you've never applied. You have to apply or renew by March 15th every single year for the benefit to kick in on July 1st. If March 15th falls on a weekend or a holiday, the deadline just shifts to the next business day, it doesn't disappear. And if you're already receiving the benefit, don't relax just yet, because this exemption has to be renewed every 2 years. The city will mail you a renewal notice, but mail gets lost, mail gets buried under a stack of other papers. And if that renewal doesn't get filed in time, your exemption quietly drops off your tax bill, and suddenly your property taxes jump back up without any warning at all. Think about how many seniors this affects. We are talking about homeowners across an entire city, an entire state, many of whom have owned their homes for 30, 40, even 50 years. Many of whom are not online every day checking government mail portals. Many of whom rely on a son, a daughter, a neighbor to help them sort through paperwork. This is exactly the kind of program that quietly expires on people, not because they didn't qualify, but because nobody reminded them in time. And once that window closes, you cannot get that year of savings back. You have to wait for the next cycle and reapply all over again. So who actually qualifies? The income cap for this exemption sits at $58,399 in combined household income. And here's some real good news hiding inside the rules. If your household income is $50,000 or less, you get the maximum exemption, that full 50% reduction. As your income rises above that, the exemption percentage steps down gradually all the way up to the $58,399 cap, where it bottoms out at a smaller 5% reduction. But even that smaller percentage is real money back in your pocket every single year for as long as you keep renewing on time. And there's a bonus most people don't even know exists. If you qualify for this senior exemption, you're automatically enrolled in an additional program called Enhanced STAR, which provides extra relief specifically on your school tax portion of the bill. The income threshold for that program has been raised to $110,750 based on your income from 2 years prior. Combine the senior exemption with this enhanced benefit, and you are looking at meaningful, stacked savings, all from programs that already exist, that you are already entitled to, if you just get the paperwork in on time. Now let's talk about what happens if you're new to this, if you've never applied before. The application window typically opens in the fall in mid-September and runs all the way through that March 15th deadline. If you file online, it is the fastest and easiest path, and you'll need some basic documentation, proof of your age, proof of your income, and information about your property. If you'd rather mail in a paper application, that works too. But remember, a mailed application has to be postmarked by the deadline, not received by the deadline, so don't wait until the final week and assume you have time to spare. Here's a story that plays out more often than you'd think. A senior homeowner, let's say a woman in her early 70s, living alone since her husband passed on a fixed income from Social Security and a small pension. She's owned her home for over 3 decades. She qualified for this exemption years ago and has been renewing it every 2 years like clockwork. Then one renewal cycle, the notice arrives in the mail during a hospital stay or a family emergency, or simply gets mixed in with junk mail and tossed without a second look. March 15th comes and goes. Nobody realizes the deadline was missed until the new tax bill arrives. Months later, thousands of dollars higher than she expected, with no warning, no negotiation, and no way to retroactively fix it for that tax year. That is not a rare story. That is a story that repeats itself every single cycle in every city that runs a program like this, simply because deadlines don't send themselves reminders twice. This is exactly why we're telling you about this today, right now, in July, because the tax year tied to this benefit begins July 1st, which means the clock toward the next application or renewal deadline is already ticking in the background, whether you're thinking about it or not. If you've never applied and you think you might qualify, now is the time to start gathering your documents, not next spring, when the deadline is suddenly a week away. And if you're already receiving this benefit, mark your calendar today for your renewal window, because the Department of Finance sends that notice roughly 60 days before your benefit is set to expire, and 60 days disappears faster than you'd think. Let's also talk about something that trips people up, the difference between an exemption and a deferral. An exemption, like the one we've been talking about, actually reduces what you owe. A deferral is a completely different animal. A deferral lets you postpone paying some of your property taxes, but the amount you defer still needs to be paid eventually, often with interest added on top. If you're in genuine financial hardship, a deferral program might still be worth exploring, but don't confuse it with a true exemption that permanently lowers your bill. Know which program you're actually applying for, because the long-term financial impact is very different. And here's one more layer that catches people by surprise. These local senior exemption programs are not one-size-fits-all across the country. Rules, income caps, and percentages can vary significantly depending on where you live, sometimes even between neighboring towns in the same county. So, if you're watching this from outside a major city, the exact numbers we've walked through may not match your local program dollar for dollar, but the underlying structure almost always does. There is very likely a similar senior homeowner exemption available where you live, with its own income cap, its own percentage reduction, and its own annual deadline. The single most important thing you can do today is contact your local tax assessor's office directly and ask them one simple question. Do you offer a senior citizen property tax exemption, and when is the deadline to apply? We also want to be upfront with you about something important. We are not your accountant, we are not a government agency, and we are not able to see your specific financial situation. What we can tell you is that these programs are real, they are documented by government tax offices, and they exist specifically to help people exactly like you. But your eligibility, your exact savings, and your specific deadline should always be confirmed directly with your local Department of Finance or your county assessor's office. A quick phone call or a visit to their official website takes just a few minutes and can save you from months of unnecessary stress later. So here's what we want you to walk away with today. If you are 60 or 65 or older and you own your home, there is very likely money on the table for you right now, in the form of a property tax exemption you may already qualify for, sitting there waiting for a simple application. The single biggest risk is not that you won't qualify. The single biggest risk is that you'll simply run out of time without realizing the clock was even running. Don't let a missed envelope or a forgotten renewal cost you thousands of dollars over the next year. Call your local assessor's office this week. Ask about a senior homeowner exemption. Get the paperwork started. Future you, sitting there next year with a smaller tax bill, will be very glad you did. Before you go, we need your help with something. If this video gave you information you didn't have 5 minutes ago, drop a comment below and let us know where you're watching from, because it helps us understand who we're reaching and what other benefits we should be covering next. And if you know a parent, a grandparent, a neighbor, anyone in your life who is 60 or older and owns their home, share this video with them today, not next week, because deadlines like this one don't wait. And the people who need this information most are often the ones least likely to stumble across it on their own. Hit that share button right now, send it in a text message, post it in a family group chat, because this is exactly the kind of information that should be passed from person to person, not left buried in a government website nobody thinks to check. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. Make sure you're subscribed so you never miss one of these breakdowns, because we will keep digging up the real programs, the real deadlines, and the real numbers that actually affect your life and your finances. We'll see you in the next one.